version of Hollywood Squares. I'm just enjoying this. I probably just dated myself. Anyways, so thank you all for taking time to attend the virtual CCC meeting. I know this is different for everybody, and I appreciate your willingness to give it a try. I would ask that you afford a bit of grace to us because there's a lot that has to go on behind the curtain. And so I'll just ask you to be patient and show each other grace. I especially am grateful for our ability to have this meeting. We are an active group. Scouting has not stopped. There is scouting going on all across the nation, and we're not different. School hasn't stopped. You're going to buy groceries hasn't stopped. And so I would ask that this meeting, the focus be on facing the challenge. And that's going to be our theme going forward in 2021, is facing the challenge of delivering effective scouting to the individual scout through the units and through the district. We're bringing you together to talk to each other and work with each other about how we can face the challenge going forward in 2021 by bringing together our resources, which are considerable, and allowing the scout to experience the best possible adventure. We have time and talents. It's time that we begin starting to scout again. We need to have programs planned. We need to have activities planned, both at the unit level and at the district level. And that's where you folks are going to help the unit leaders make that happen. The tools and talents are not only virtual, but they are also physical. And I would just ask that as we go forward, the tone of the meeting be to face the challenge. So just a little housekeeping, we're going to have a general session, and then through the magic of Zoom, you will be transported to your breakout session where you'll have a meeting, and the agendas vary from group to group, but the general theme will be how can we come together and start scouting again. After that, we'll come back for a report out, similar to what we've done in the past. So someone from each group should be that person who is prepared to provide some insight and some information about how their group fits in to facing the challenge for 2021. So with that, I am very pleased to introduce three people. First, we're going to have Chris Steinkamp, our council president, Brian Nastasi, our scout executive, and then Heather Blankenship, our council commissioner. Julie, after that, will give us some general directions on things that she wants us to know about doing a Zoom meeting. And then I'd like Stuart to talk just briefly about some key dates that we need to keep in mind. I think he probably wants to mention FOS for sure and popcorn for sure. So with that, I'm going to ask Chris to address us just briefly. If he screams and yells, I think he might be watching some type of sports event, but I don't know what that is. So Chris.
Thank you, Roger. And I want to thank all of you who are on here, who are giving up your Saturday afternoon to talk about scouting. Obviously, all of us know how important it is, but nonetheless, the K-State game is on. And so you'll notice that I have my hat, and you may hear screaming from time to time. K-State's ahead right now, so it's all good. Obviously, as Roger mentioned, we are in challenging times. And we are going to face that challenge. We are going to succeed. And you guys are all the point of the spear, if you will, that are going to help get scouting's mission delivered to the youth. That is our entire purpose for being, is to teach these young people the things they need to do so that they then in their turn will face challenges and they'll be able to rise to the occasion just as we are going to do. Now, is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be fun? No. Although I do say to Brian, most of the times when I talk to him, remember, Brian, this is fun. We are enjoying this. So understand there's a few things going on, and I'm going to just give you a really 100,000 foot overview of what those are. Not that you don't probably already know. Obviously, we have the abuse lawsuits and the bankruptcy of the National Boy Scouts. That is a challenge that is already something we're dealing with. And the current bar date for claims, which means that if you are an individual who has been abused as part of scouting, which hopefully we know all of those people, but we may not. Anyone who does not come forward to the bankruptcy court and make a claim before November 16th will be barred. And that is part of the bankruptcy process. So be aware of that. You're going to be seeing lots of advertising on radio, television, and every other possible medium about that. And obviously that's going to be a challenge for all of us who are involved in scouting as we're trying to keep a positive attitude and promote the message of scouting, because there's a lot of negativity going on right now. So be aware of that. Once the bar date passes, we will start to figure out what the future will look like. Right now, we're starting to get a few ideas, but we're just not there yet. So stay tuned on that. The next thing that we are dealing with, if you didn't think that was a big enough challenge for you, is this whole issue with the virus that the entire world is dealing with. And as you know, that has severely limited our ability to have activities. And that's going to be one of the things that we want to focus on here today, is how do we meet that challenge? How can we, as commissioners, get our youth out, involved in the outdoors, involved in scouting, advancing in their ranks, and moving forward with their lives in spite of the fact that we have severe limitations on what we can do. So that's the next problem. Those two things together also have kind of created another problem for us, and that is the financial issues that are going on. And I just have to say to you, we have had some meetings lately and looked at the finances. We just got our audit report back from the auditors yesterday, and our audit report was very positive. It was a clean audit. We don't have any issues in our books. Not that we expected any, but it's always good to get that report. Second of all, I want to say that our finances, while obviously not ideal, we are okay. We are going to survive. If you hear rumors to the contrary, you should not believe them. We are going to get through this. So obviously it costs money to support the staff, support the activities of the scouts, to maintain our properties and do all those things. We're going to get through this. We're doing okay. So the next issue that is really the same issue that scouting has always dealt with is all of us need to focus on youth engagement and getting the youth involved in activities that they can learn from, that they can enjoy, and that they can take with them for the rest of their lives. I think most of us who have been involved in scouting have memories of scouting from our childhoods, and we want all of the young people out there to have those same opportunities, to have those memories. So the issues in America and perhaps in the world are that young people are not getting engaged in activities. They are not getting exercise. They are not getting outside. They are not interacting with each other. They are hooked into electronics. And as a result of that, the suicide rates among young people are increasing. And that's a scary, scary thing. All of those issues are right in our bailiwick. And that's why this is so important for all of us. And that's why we're all here today on a Saturday when it's a beautiful day outside. And I'm sure we'd all love to be doing something besides watching a Zoom chat and listening to me. But that is what the real issue here is. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. So keep that in your mind. all of you are the ones that are responsible for delivering the program to these young folks. And remember, we've got both boys and girls who now are going to have the opportunity to have great experiences and learn and have things that they will carry with them their entire lives. So these are the challenges. I think we're all capable of meeting those challenges. We're ready. That's what scouting is about. I mean, that's why the scouting motto is be prepared. We are teaching these young people how to be prepared, because these sort of challenges happen time and time again in the history of the world, and they're going to happen again later in these young people's lives as well. So I would just ask, you guys are very dedicated. You're very committed to this. Remember, keep a positive attitude. It's easy to get down in times like these. And every one of us suffers from that, but a positive attitude will bring everyone together, and it will be incredibly important for all of us. Also, there's a big issue about trust, and that goes in several different directions. One is we have to trust that we are doing good things, and that the good Lord will protect us from all of these challenges that we're dealing with, and we are going to get through it. And the second thing about trust is that these young people trust us to guide them in a way that will be a positive experience. And so deserve their trust. I think that you do, but keep that in your mind, that a lot of people are trusting you in what you're asking them and the guidance that you're giving them. And so deserve their trust. We've got some challenges to go forward to try to figure out how to get scouting's mission delivered under these times. There are a lot of resources out there, both through the council, even through nationals. There are a lot of good ideas among a lot of these volunteers that are either on this call or that are otherwise involved in scouting. Reach out to people, and there are good things to do. So the last thing that I want to say really is there will undoubtedly be lots of rumors and things said. We've heard a lot about that with all of the challenges that are going on. Remember, most of those things are rumors, and we are moving forward with this. So if you hear something to the contrary, you can be assured that that's not true. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Brian or Heather or Roger or Julie or anyone else for that matter that's involved in scouting, and we'll let you know if there is something that you should be concerned about. We're going to do everything we can to keep you informed as we move forward through the end of this year and early next year as to where we stand. The last thing is that I think that this meeting is a really good start on a really good development as a result of these challenges, and it shows you how we are going to be able to rise to the occasion. And that is that we're all doing this. I'm sitting on my back porch. A lot of you, I think that Elaine Harrington is out camping somewhere. So we're doing this across the entire council. People are logged into this call. That is a really good thing, because one of the things that I want to do, and I haven't been able to much since I've been dealing with other things, but we want to get all of the outlying areas outside of Wichita, all the small communities engaged. And this is a great opportunity to do it. And so I hope you all stay tuned. I hope you stay involved. And I hope that we all go forward in a positive direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Certainly appropriate words, and we appreciate your guidance and your counsel. Brian, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I'll be very brief, which is kind of rare for me. But the University of Minnesota did a couple of research projects early on during the pandemic, and some of the results of that research is now coming out, and it's kind of staggering. And But there's some really good news with those results. Let me give you the bad news first. Was over 30% of parents and children said they experience some type of negative mood swings on a daily basis, an increase in depression. Some of the things that Chris was talking about really came out in these studies. And the good news about these studies is that the one thing that really helped people come back to whatever they call normal is having a routine. Once there is a routine established, then people feel like they can go back to some type of normalcy. And so I'm gonna, I'm ecstatic for the theme that we have today. Roger, thank you for providing that theme. Rising to the challenge. It is super important that we realize how important the work of scouting is. If we see people who are not in a routine that are in scouting, we kind of have to back off a little bit and let them come back to a routine. And one of the greatest things that I saw with that is that there were a couple of schools in Osage Nation that started August 19th. And because they started kind of on time, they recently, like last week, did their recruitments. And so by that time, people had gotten back to a little bit of a routine. And so I know Bill is on the call, Bill Murphy, and just want to congratulate the Osage Nation district. They had 3 recruitments, and they all went very, very well. I think if we can keep that in the front of our mind about helping in identifying families, scout troops, scout packs that have established a routine or have gotten back to a routine, then they're more welcoming, and then they're more excited about getting back to scouting. Those early indicators are going to be extremely important. We had a discussion the past couple of days with staff about being cautious when pushing our packs to do their recruitment, pushing our units to sell popcorn. Everybody wants to get back to normal, but it's going to be different. And once we see and witness that routine in our families, then it's time to move scouting forward. I would say that in this time, we have got to realize we have to lean back on what scouting is about, the Scout Oath and Law, how to treat one another. I think that if both political parties would adopt the behavior of the Scout Oath and Law, we might actually have a pleasant election, regardless of the turnout. I want us to be the leaders in our communities that talk about how to treat one another. The next few months are going to be about as ugly as it's going to get in this country. And I want scouting to be the lead on how to behave, how to treat one another. Remember, and I hate to say it, call out other scouters when they're not acting with the Scout Oath and Law in mind. It is something that we have to do. And I'll finish with this, is when I started here with the Quivira Council, I walked into camp and I said, "How you guys doing?" They said, "Fantastic, terrific, all around groovy, all day long." And I didn't understand why this council does that. And it hit me. Sometimes we experience scouting in a way that is not fun. There are some bugs at camp, and sometimes it rains for 7 days out of a 10-day trek, and it's uncomfortable. But we have to remind ourselves to be positive, exactly what Chris said. Remind ourselves how to act in the Scout Oath and Law. Be excited about what we do, because we are changing lives. We are saving lives. We are the change that this country needs, and we need to be in the forefront of that. So thank you all for participating today. Thank you for your attendance. I can't wait to see how this thing turns out. There is no better place that we all should be right now than right here. Roger?
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's funny. I know exactly what you're talking about with the Oliver on Groovy all day long. It's hilarious. And even when you aren't in scouting, sometimes you'll greet somebody that way, and it's always a lot of fun. So Heather, are you ready to share some insight with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Roger. So we're all in this together. That's a phrase that we've heard a lot during this pandemic. But what does that really mean to us as scouters? What role can we play in helping our families and our communities get through this together? Mark or Chris and Brian have made some really great remarks in that regard, and I just want to follow up with a few additional thoughts. People really need to feel a sense of belonging and that they have people around them that can support them during this time. And that is what scouting can offer to our existing families as well as new families that we're recruiting into scouting. But to achieve this, we must be meeting, whether it's in person or whether it's virtually, we must be meeting and doing scouting. And this is really critical, not only to recruiting new youth, but also to retaining the youth that we currently have. We've already talked a little bit about all the challenges that we have with recruiting. Access to schools is limited, but we need to be working on creative ways that we can recruit new youth and that we can get our units back into scouting and offering program. Last week, the council sent out a communication to all of our units, encouraging them to find ways to re-engage if they've taken a break during the pandemic. There are options for meeting virtually, but safety, as always, is our first priority. But we think that there are ways, and we have units already that are showing that there are ways to modify our traditional approach to scouting and still meet safely in person. The foundation of scouting has always been based on getting our youth outdoors and using it as our classroom to teach life skills and a love and appreciation of nature. I know being outdoors always lifts my spirits. When we're outdoors and we're socially distancing, we can take off our masks, we can breathe in the fresh air, and we can feel the sunshine on our faces. Who doesn't feel better after a few minutes of that? I mean, Chris, you're sitting outside right now. Elaine, I know you can just hop right out and see what's going on outside. Who doesn't feel better after a few minutes of that, especially when we spend so much of our day inside? But you volunteers and our scouting professionals, you play a critical role in helping our units get back to scouting. Our units need our support, regardless of what your role is. Reach out and ask how a unit you know is doing. If they're struggling, find out what help they need and bring this back to your district committees to see if it's something that they can do to help. We need, as you meet in your teams today, I want you to ask yourselves, what is it that your function does that helps our units to scout strong and face these challenges? How are you adapting? How are you helping them adapt and transition during this time to modified and new different ways to be active and engaged from a scouting perspective? We've already said it, our communities need scouting more than ever. A sense of belonging, purpose, normalcy, support, something that's positive in their lives. So I thank everybody for being here today, even in the middle of the K-State game, and all that you do for scouting. And I'm excited about our sessions today. So I look forward to hearing at the end when you all report out what came out of your meetings today. Roger?
Thank you very much, Julie. Well said. Julie Dalton, do you have any housekeeping items that we need to be aware of?
So for those of you who may not have been on Zoom before, through the magic of cyberspace, Jamie Coyne has placed us all into appropriate breakout rooms based on our committee or role. So once he hits the button, you'll magically have a pop-up that says, do you want to go to the breakout room? Click yes. Meetings are scheduled for 50 minutes. I think Brian and Chris have the ability to pop around, and we'll probably be going from committee to committee just to check and see how things are going. And if committees find that they are done sooner than that, then send me a text and we'll shut down the breakout room sooner than that, because there's no sense in staying in committees just for the sake of staying in committees. And then once we come back to the normal room, then we'll continue on and give our reports. So.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
Julie, I just want to add, I think when you're in a breakout room, if you're done, feel free to go ahead and exit. I think you have the option to exit from your breakout room. That'll take you back into the general session, and that'll help all of us understand when our breakouts are done and if we can resume the general session. So feel free to do that.
Okay, perfect. So I do want a special thanks to Julie Dalton and Jamie Coyne, who have done all the heavy lifting behind the curtain. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you very much. Stuart, you're up. Do you want to share? I'll give you the floor if you want to share anything important for the group.
I can do that, Roger. Thank you. As you stated earlier, popcorn is about 13 days away from kickoff. It will conclude November 1st at the end of the sale. Some key dates is Prayer Primer, which will happen virtually September 26th. Weeblos Woods is October 16th through the 18th at QSR. Silver Beaver nominations are due October 31st. ScoutCon, November 6th through the 8th, will be at QSR. University of Scouting, November 14th at Butler Community College in Andover. Trappers 2021, January 15th through the 17th. And the council dinner, January 30th. And so, Roger, that concludes my key dates.
Thank you very much, Stuart, and I appreciate your staff being present. You didn't just lose my mind. I forgot to unmute myself. So appreciate your staff being present, and for a lot of the new DEs, this is going to be new for them. So I would ask that the different groups show grace and help their different staff members to come on board so that we can, as a group, face the challenge. I'm going to wear that phrase out, okay? So anyways, at this point, I believe that we are ready to be magically transported into our subgroup meetings. So Julie, if you'll do your thing, I'd appreciate it.
All right. I believe I have everybody in the right place, but if not, I'm going to hang out here for a couple minutes. Just exit the room you're in and I'll put you in the right place. So here we go.
Thanks, Jamie.
Beth, are you not there or are you not getting a message? Oh, there you went. Okay. That's just me.
That would be.
Okay, that would be me. I had to unmute myself.
Okay, perfect.
The district chair, or yeah, the district chair group, our main focus that we looked at on facing the challenge was the challenge, our current challenge right now is our nominating process. So we talked a lot about nominating as far as the timeline, getting outside people involved, people that are currently outside the Scout family, community leaders involved in our district committees. We talked about succession planning for not only our district chairs, which is really important, but also for some of the various committee chairs, for everyone to continuously be looking for their replacement. We talked about each district committee hosting an orientation for their district committees. And we talked about having the district committee be visible out in the council. So at different council events, district event, well, I guess more at their own district events, having them be visible. And so that the units know who these people are that can help them in their units. So that was the main focus of what we talked about. It was nominating, getting our district committees. We have a lot of empty committee chair spots in all of our districts. So there's a lot of vacancies to be filled. So we talked about ways to do that. So that was the main focus of our breakout session today.
Great. Is there anything specifically, one thing, a takeaway, one thought that you want us to take away, Lynette?
Just the importance of filling those vacancies, and once you have someone on your district committee, to make them feel important and useful. It doesn't do any good to recruit someone to be on your committee and then not give them something to do, because they may come to a meeting or two and then you won't see them again because their time isn't being used wisely. So instead of making people feel useful and using the skills that they have.
Perfect. I'm a little reluctant to open it up for questions given our time constraints, but maybe we'll do that at the very end. So thank you very much. The next group was advancement. Is someone prepared to speak briefly about advancement?
I guess that'd be my turn to unmute and join the meeting.
Perfect.
We had the first point of discussion was the nominating process for silver antelope, silver beaver, and domestic district award of merit. The biggest point we need to make is to advertise it's time to do that, and different districts do it a little bit differently, but we're going to share some resources and start that advertising process to highlight that out to the unit leaders. A lot of discussion on Scout Book. We have quite a resource in Jennifer providing information and guidance and suggestions and so forth, but each of us getting a little bit more in-depth understanding and how to use it and the resource that's available. I know, speaking personally, I need to spend more time and really understand what all it can do. But it is a tremendous resource and can be helpful to commissioners as well as from an advancement standpoint. There's a test environment that is available to basically get some instruction, some practice without affecting anybody's Scout Book program, which we're going to pursue. We had some discussion on the Eagle Packet and Eagle boards of review being done remotely, virtually, rather than in person. We all agree we'd like to do them in person, but sometimes there may be some benefit. There are some challenges doing them virtually, but there's some benefit as well. And different circumstances, different situations may dictate which way to go on that. But safety is paramount, and as long as we can maintain a safe application of the process, that's critical. University of Scouting and having a scout book class came up. I'm not aware of where that stands. Need to pursue that further, and perhaps that would be an excellent opportunity for some on-hands or some in-person or virtual discussion further for scout leaders in general. But another opportunity to pursue that further. I think that's the extent of my comments at this
Perfect.
point.
Thank you very much, Pete. Is there one thing that you want us to take away from your team's meeting? One thing.
I guess I'd point to the scout book application. Some units are using it very well. Others are struggling with it, but it's such a tremendous resource. It's interactive with other things that it needs to be stressed to the units to make sure they're using it and getting the benefit from it.
Okay, perfect. I really appreciate your time as well. So I'd like to maybe make it easy for people. If you have any questions whatsoever, please send those directly to me. If I don't know the answer, I'll get the person that does, and then I will send back the answer to you. I think that will make it a lot easier overall. And at this point, is CC here? I don't see her on.
I'm right here.
Okay, are you ready to take us on an outdoor adventure?
Well, I don't know. Well, we couldn't cover it all in our session, but in a nutshell, a panel of volunteers got together and threw out paradigms and rebuilt the summer program from the ground up. And in that summer program, it uses every scrap of QSR that we have. There will be very few corners of the property that don't see scout traffic in some form or fashion in summer of 2021. And if there's a thing that we need summer of 2021 to be the year of scouting outdoors at QSR. We need our youth out there. Cub Scout resident camp sessions will go first in the schedule. We have Cub Scout resident camp and Webelos resident camps, 2 separate programs running concurrently. QSR Boats and Boots, which is a short-term camp. I will send all of this information out to everybody because we don't have enough time. But it's based on 13 or 14 different camping opportunities, including traditional weeks at Quivira Scout Ranch. We will not be using the dining hall. Everybody will be provided ingredients for Scouts BSA. They will or get trail meals if they're doing a trek program, and Cub Scouts and Webelos will get hot box meals at their camp. Super exciting, and I do not know how to explain it in 5 minutes. So
I will just give you all a brief taste of the most exciting thing that's going to be available next summer. It's off the grid at Indian Spring.
That's Roger's favorite one.
We're going to have scouts at Indian Springs for summer camp. So that's too cool. Thank you very much, CC. And, you know, one of the things that we haven't done as much as we should was go directly back to the volunteers and ask them what they think a good program. And I want to emphasize how big of a deal this was. Nobody else is doing this but us. Nobody else went back to the volunteers and said, we want unvarnished feedback about our camps. And that's how this program was developed. So I'm excited, and it's going to be a great next year. So let's roll on into activities and civic service. Who wants to speak for that group?
I'll take it on. Okay, we discussed some of the upcoming activities. One thing that came up was on the COVID-19 testing the youth as they come in to activities. Kevin has informed us that there are several thermometers at the council office that can be used for activities. One question was brought up on, is there a form that we need to fill out once we have tested the youth as they come in for camps or activities for registration? Is there a form that we need to use to make sure that we have done our part and tested those kids coming in with their temperature, or make sure they can, hold their breath and don't have any respiratory issues and all? So that's something we need to follow up with. At the moment, we don't know of one, but that's something we'll follow up with on it.
Elaine, can you help with that?
With a form to
Yeah,
fill
if
out?
we don't have one, create one.
Oh, let me just make one up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do Express Excel. Yeah. So,
Okay.
my suggestion was on registration as they come in, do a check mark for the temperature's okay, do a check mark that there's no respiratory issues. Is that something simple we can do, we can implement?
I would think, it would just be a matter of who you have manning the entranceway to be able to do that. You probably need two people, one taking a temperature and the other one, looking for the person's name and checking it off.
Okay.
I know that at my office, it's not just a temperature, but it's those, questions. Have you been exposed? Are you,
Right.
have symptoms, that type of thing. And of course, now at my office, they've added another 20 different things that they ask, but I don't think you would need to go to that extent. I think it's just more, those basic questions of, have you been exposed to anyone with a known COVID? Are you showing any signs or symptoms of it? Has your cough changed? And I say changed because this is allergy season, this is Kansas, and most of us have a cough, but is it different than what you're used to? And then taking a temperature and just marking that they're okay to go through the gate.
So is that something we need to make up a little questionnaire checklist? Come up with?
The only reason to have one would make it easier for you to know what questions to ask, to make sure you're asking them of each and every person, whether it's a piece of paper that everybody just takes with them through the gate, or if it's something that you just have. I think that would be something to bring up with Brian as to whether that the council would want to keep track of that. I can't see why they would, but.
DC has her hand up.
Yeah.
We created one of those for summer camp when we thought we were going to get to have summer camp. And so we already have one of those created. Those records do not need to stay with us. I would keep a copy with the unit or whoever the event leader is, perhaps, but that the rest of that information needs to go back with the medical piece of paper as part of permissions in return to the adult bringing the child to the activity. If Maddie will make a note of it for me, I will get that pulled and we can circulate it to the group so that they can all have a copy of it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Another thing was on the medics, on our events and activities on medics, does that need to be a person that is in the medical field for that? Or say like Day of Awesomeness is just a few hours for the daytime? Can that be just somebody first aid trained?
First aid trained is not a first responder. That's first aid.
Gotcha.
If you want somebody who's qualified to do that, I think it's not that difficult to borrow a nurse for a couple of hours, somebody that's trained. I think that Elaine would back me up on that. If there wasn't a true emergency, you need medical occurrence. Say first aid is first aid and emergency is something else.
Gotcha. Okay. So that answers that. So as we're looking at this, so we kind of used the Duck Dynasty, let's see what he calls it, safety plan. We're going to take and share this with everybody, see if we can't get it in an email, email sent out that maybe just share the safety issues that like Duck Dynasty was going to use for being safe during COVID times, during when you're doing your events. So that's one thing that we shared. Let's see. Look at my notes here real quickly. I got them all over. So on the civil service area side, we want to implement quarterly themes to help others out there. We're doing some civil service. October is Scouting for Food. We'd like to encourage everybody on December 19th. There's a thing coming on called Wreaths Across America, where you contribute or you help out as a volunteer, either placing wreaths or donating and volunteering it. So we like to kind of implement that. So quarterly would be scouting for food and helping out the community and all with the wreaths on the cemeteries. One thing we want to encourage is continue doing activities, events, keep on planning them. We're not shutting down because of this COVID thing. We need to keep on going. We're going to keep on marching on. Record hours for your community services that you've done. Do it now as you do them and not wait till December to do them, because by that time it's too late and you've forgotten all about it. So another thing is, it is coming budget time for the council, and we need, for any activities and events that we do for next year, we need to get them done. Budgets filled out, turned in by the, and Keith says he'd like to have them by the 3rd week of October is when they were due. So let's get those of you planning activities and events, please spread the word out there to the rest of the districts that let's get our budgets done, filled out for 2021 and get them turned in by October to the council office. One thing he was told us, he told us he's working on a new budget format, but he don't think he'll get it done this year. So that maybe next year where there's a new budget format coming up. All activities, all camps and activities, he says, for 2021 will be at QSR. They're not planning on having any at Camp Kansa for 2021. So just keep that in mind for doing all your planning events that you're doing. The next upcoming event that we know aware of is Day of Awesomeness, October 3rd coming up. And please keep in mind that QSR is available for all activities and events. Civil service can be done publicly anywhere or wherever you can do that. The council office is also available for any activities that you need to do. Check with them out first. So with that in mind, with all that, I think we've covered all our bases. And Roger's going to ask me what my take-home point is. I'm going to jump ahead of you, Roger, okay? So what I want to do, our take-home point for this is go out and do things for the community and be seen. Let scouting be seen out there. Plan and do activities and events. Just because COVID has slowed down things right now, it's not going to slow us down. Let's keep on doing it, keep on scouting on. That's it for us on activities and civil.
Thank you, Joe. Really appreciate it. The next group I think we have is training. Who wants to speak for training?
Yeah, I can do that, Roger. Thank you. So we spent the majority of our meeting discussing the current training activities that are on the calendar and those activities that are imminently going to be on the calendar. Those would include the upcoming Prairie Primer, September 26th, which is a digital delivery of the basic Scout leader type training. Then in October, we've got Baloo coming up, November, University of Scouting, and I think that there's going to be a movement away from an in-person training at University of Scouting and really leveraging Zoom and digital delivery to do that. And I think the curriculum, although it's already fully staffed and worked out, is probably going to get pared down to accommodate the digital delivery method, and it'll be rebranded as University of Scouting COVID. And then hopefully in 2022, we can get back to in-person University of Scouting. So every 2 years, I think currently is the thought for University of Scouting. And then there's another training that's going to be coming up in the 4th quarter, which is really open to any scouter across the council. And it's probably going to be leveraging digital delivery to execute that as well. And that's called Trainer's Edge. If I had to suspect, that's probably going to be late October, but the date's not final yet. The thing to keep in mind about that training is that's a basic high-level training for any scouter, and that's adult scouts and youth. In particular, if you have youth that are wanting to get into the NYLT pipeline for staff, then that's a requirement for NYLT and Wood Badge, but it's open to trainers across the council. So if you see that and you have any scouter that you're wanting to attend that, please encourage them to register. And then the overall, we also talked about getting back on track for 2021. in getting dates and leads committed to get a couple of BLUs and a couple of IOLS trainings out there on the calendar and ready to execute. And really the overarching takeaway that we're trying to get back to is executing the trainings that are on the calendar and no longer letting them slide. And that will mean adapting the digital delivery technologies as much as we can to accommodate that. And that's, so for example, the University of Scouting, and that's probably what's going to happen there, because at this point, you know, paying the fees for a physical location and not knowing if we're going to be able to execute that on November 14th, that's really not a good plan. We'll be 60 days out on Monday, and it's going to get switched to Zoom digital delivery for this period. And so that's really the overarching takeaway for us, is to get the events back on the calendar and execute them regardless, and so not let them slide any longer.
Okay, thank you, Ben. What's the one thing that we should take away from training?
Personal invitations, and don't hesitate to reach out to your professional staff advisor and try and lubricate the process to get events up on the calendar. That's the main takeaway.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Believe that we're ready for the commissioners. Is that, Heather, are you the commissioner report out person?
I am today. I failed to nominate anyone else to do it, so by default, I guess that's me. So we spent some time talking about kind of really three key things. The first is making sure that our unit commissioners, you know, we talked about the need for our scout families and our scouts to have a sense of belonging and to know that scouting is still happening. And we really feel like it's important too for our unit commissioners to understand that as well. And where they may be accustomed to the traditional model of meeting in person with our units and observing unit meetings to do their visits, that those can be done differently, and that we need to make sure that we're engaging and not just sort of waiting for this whole thing to blow over. So we talked about, you know, what the format is and what we should be talking about in our meetings with our unit commissioners at the district level, and hopefully rebooting that process in all of our districts. The second thing that we discussed was making sure, how can we as unit commissioners, what's our role in helping our units getting back to meeting that are not meeting? And so I've challenged each one of our districts to seek to do some sort of outreach to every one of our units to make sure that we know who is and who isn't returned to meeting, whether it's in person or virtually. Let's make a list of all those units, and let's try to figure out what can we do as commissioners, and how can our district committees help us to get these units back to some sort of engagement and meeting together. The third thing that we talked about was preparing for recharter. And so, I'm going to make an appeal.
I believe that she said that she is going to make a personal appeal to each unit to step up and be ready for recharter, and to scrub those lists before the final time that they are ready to log on and do the rechartering. But I'm not sure that's what she was going to say, because she's dropped off. Okay, well, she must be having some type of technical difficulties, but we appreciate that report out as well as it could be given. Thank you so much.
Can I plug something for Scout Book and Recharter real quick?
Yes,
So,
sure.
So Scout Book is really trying to do its best by being all that it can be for the individual units. And one of the new components that they've come out with is that PayPal is now supported within Scout Book. So for those parents that want to help and pay their dues online in a timely manner and want to make sure that their unit gets rechartered on time, if the unit has PayPal set up, parents can actually pay in their fluffy rabbit pajamas at home at 3 o'clock in the morning, log into Scoutbook and pay their dues by PayPal, and it gets back to the actual unit, provided it is set up.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. Good news. Heather is texting me through my cell phone, and the final idea she wanted to convey was to make sure your youth protection is renewed. I know for an awful lot of us, it's coming due about the middle of September. So make sure that you're checking on that, and don't let yourself go into a pumpkin. With that, I think the next group is membership. Is that right? Is it? Okay, Elaine, you want to take it away?
Sure, I'll be brief. I want to say that we had a small group, but it was a productive group, and I want to thank everyone for their positivity and thinking outside the box. I think that with membership, our big thing is, recruitment. Organizing new troops is usually this time of the year, September, October, and hopefully wrapping up most of it by the end of November. Not that we cut off ever accepting a scout, but at least that be the big part of the big push. One of our big points to bring out is trying to recruit a membership chair for every district. It would be great to have membership chairs that have helpers that maybe focus on different aspects of membership, whether it be the Webelos crossovers, new unit focus, but at least to get one membership chairperson from each district. So that might be something that we need to try to promote and try to find people to recruit for that. Other things that were brought up were thinking outside the box for advertising, for promoting scouts that we're still here. We haven't fallen off the face of the earth. People that might have some connections with radio stations and some of those community promos that they'll do for different events that are going on, maybe some of those free things that we can get ourselves involved in. Small towns around the area, the newspapers putting comments in about upcoming promotion. Maybe pulling together some interviews with success stories from local parents, because parents talking to parents about the importance of scouts is really kind of a plus. I think getting parent involvement helps the kids feel like they're involved and that their parents are pushing them and encouraging them. But those interviews can be done for like YouTube things or other promotional activities. Oh, I think that probably sums it, except just our biggest takeout thing is letting unit leaders know that we are a safe place to talk, that we are here to calm the units. There's a lot of craziness in the world right now with COVID, and there are extremes of people being scared to death versus people that think the whole thing is a bunch of baloney, and a lot of stuff in between. So I think if we, whether we are the membership chairs, whether we are the commissioners, whether we are the coordinators, whoever involved in scouts, that we are there for unit leaders to be that calming effect, and hopefully just help them try to decide how can we open up our units and get ourselves back into a program and back into doing the things we like to do the best safely. So I think that was it, and our biggest takeout is finding membership chairs for each district would be a big part of it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I know that some of those things are very difficult to do. Maddie, do you have a minute you could share with everybody how to get engaged with MailChimp so we can have a good, solid communication circle going on? I know there's some folks out there who don't do that right now.
Sure. Thanks, Roger. For those of you that don't know, the council has multiple newsletters and emails that go out on a pretty regular basis. You should have all gotten a communication on Thursday called Q News. That's something new. It's a weekly publication. It comes out every Thursday. Q News is just things in general that are happening in scouting. You should be able to, the CCC was on there, Prairie Primer was on there. I believe there was an article from Brian on scouting, updates on JTE, all those good things. There's something in Q News for everyone. That comes out every Thursday. We also have the trail guide or the program newsletter that comes out the 15th of every month. That did slow down a little bit because of COVID and because we had, pushed everything virtual, but that will be coming back. So that'll be the 15th of every month. And then we actually have a printed donor newsletter that I do once a quarter. And that goes to the printer on the 15th as well. So we've got one in progress right now. The next one will be December or January, depending on what all we have and what all we need to cover. So if you are not signed up for those, you can go to the Quivira Council website. And when you get there, there should be a pop-up at the bottom of the screen for the MailChimp. Enter your email and you will start to receive those updates. If you get sick of me, that's fine. I understand. You can break up with me. If I break up with you, it's permanent. I can't put you back. So please, please, please subscribe. If it's not something you want to read, you can just trash it. But it's the best way to keep up with everything that is happening. Send me your good news. Send me your events. My calendar, my website, and my communications are only as good as the information as I have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maddie. And I'm probably going to put Julie on the spot. I'm going to give you about 38 seconds to talk about the program symposium.
Yep. So I just put a link into the chat. The Central Region Program Committee hosts a symposium. This will be the 4th year. It will be in St. Louis this year. The date is March 13th, which is a Saturday. There is camping available Friday night, Saturday at Beaumont Scout Reservation where it's going to be held. I will be there. I know there will be programs for commissioners. Scouting U will be there. There will be a midway all day Saturday. It's limited, obviously, because of COVID to the first 200 people. So it will be a great opportunity for people to network from peers from around the region so that you can do a better job in your day-to-day scouting job. So.
And if they want to participate in that, how do they do that again?
I posted the registration link into the chat box. And just send me an email. I will send you the flyer that has all the details and be happy to share that with you.
Okay, perfect. Final note, I think I need to give CC about 43.27 seconds to talk about the changes in NCAP because there has been a change in rulings and it will affect each and every unit. So CC, could you just give us a kind of an overview of that?
Okay, I will send the presentation materials to everybody that registered for this. Anytime we put up a tent, whether it's a district or a council event on property or off property, beginning January 1, 2021, if there's an overnight component, then there will be an NCAP process. This will apply to Order the Arrow events, training events such as Wood Badge, National Youth Leadership Training, IOLS, and Balloon. If there's going to be camping, youth or adult, we have to have an NCAP process. Do not be alarmed. It's a short form thing. It's very, very limited. It's not a 300-page standard book. The training will be inexpensive. And it'll be announced sometime in October, and you'll be able to do it online or in person. In person would be training with me. My dream is that every district has 5 or 6, 7, 8, maybe 12 people who take this training and are ready and prepared to support any overnight event. It does not count for unit camping, single unit camping. If you have multiple units, it has to have an NCAP process. Love you, mean it. I will send it to you.
Okay, thanks so much. So we are rounding the edge or rounding the corner towards wrapping up. At this point, I think we've had a really good first step into doing a virtual CCC meeting, and I appreciate everyone's time today. I especially appreciate all the work that the different committees have done. Please, if you have a question, directly send it to me, and I will respond to it so that you get your question answered. A number of things are going to be available to you to log on to or to check, or resources that have been announced today. And the last thing that I will leave you with is the notion of, we have been prepared a long time, and you are the leadership of this council. So let's go out and get these kids, these youth, a good, solid scouting program. And everybody at this meeting offers a resource that you can reach out to if you don't know how to do something. And I would especially thank all the members of all the committees for coming together so that we can face the challenge in 2021. Good afternoon.